Shabbat Shalom. A funny thing was said to my wife yesterday. She was speaking with a colleague at work, and the colleague said, "I hope you have a happy Hanukkah." And then Debbie paused and said, "Well, thank you, but Hanukkah's over." She goes, "Really? Isn't it too early for that?" And then Debbie explained how Hanukkah can come at different times in December, even as late as the beginning of January. So here we are. For most people, the holiday season is still coming up, but for us, the holiday season has ended. I hope that all of you tonight in person and watching via live stream had a happy Hanukkah. I did. I thought it was a great holiday. We actually had beautiful weather each night for the lighting of the menorah. We had a wonderful in-person Hanukkah family service that was the highlight of the holiday, and spending a little bit of the holiday with my 14-month-old grandson was very special too. So it was a very, very nice Hanukkah. But we're post-Hanukkah, and then another poignant statement happened this afternoon because I was disconnecting and bringing back our large menorah to the shed, and my neighbor across the street saw me and kind of looked at me, and I said, "Well, Hanukkah's over." And he goes, "I hope not. We still need the light." I thought that's one of this, spontaneous statements, and he's a musician, he's a very nice neighbor and person, and I said, "You're right. We really do still need the light in these dark times and dark part of the year." So we do hope that the light of Hanukkah continues to shine in your hearts and your souls. We welcome Shabbat with the singing of Lecha Dodi, our classic welcome of Shabbat, page 24. Remain standing for our call to worship, the Baruch Hu, page 28. Please be seated. On page 31, this is an hour of change. Within it we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Baruch atah Adonai ha'ma'ariv aravim. From the world of light and darkness around us to light and darkness within us, Ahavat Olam, page 32. Let's join together in the Shema.
Shema
Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed Avta et Adonai Elohecha
בכל לבבך
ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך
והיו הדברים
האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך
היום על לבבך
ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם
בשבתך
בביתך ובלכתך בדרך
ושוכבך
וקומך ושבתם
לאות על ידיך
והיו לטוטפות
בין
עיניך וכתבתם
על מזוזות ביתך
וישעריך
למען
תזכרו
ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי
והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני
אדוני אלוהיכם
אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם
לאלוהים
אני
אדוני אלוהיכם.
I was asking one of our bat mitzvah students this week that I was tutoring, what's your favorite story in the Torah? And she said, it's when Moses led the people out of Egypt. I said, how come? She said, because it's about our freedom. And she's right. And that's why we sing Mi Chamocha every week on page 40. It's our song of liberation from the Exodus.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך את המקודש. נורא תהילות עושה פלא, נורא תהילות עושה פלא. מלכותך
ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגואלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל Yisrael. On page 42 is the Hashkivenu prayer, which really in some ways is, as I've mentioned before, a prayer for a good night's sleep. We ask God that we lie down in peace and raise up, wake up to life renewed. And there's always a sleep study coming out. So there was another one that came out this week. And the gist of this study is that too little sleep or too much sleep is not good. They actually study people who sleep too much, and that has very negative health consequences, as does too little sleep. So it's the right amount of sleep, and it is basically, for most people, 8 hours. I have not had 8 hours of sleep in 20 or 30 years, but if you're around 7, for a lot of people, that can be okay too. Under 7, 6 or less, that can be difficult. But not only do you need that specific number of hours, but you need it to be uninterrupted sleep as much as possible. So you go through the different cycles of sleep, like the REM sleep and so forth too. So a good night's sleep is a challenging thing. Not too much, not too little, and just the right kind of sleep. It's something we take for granted, but our bodies are such, every animal, in fact, needs the proper amount of sleep to function well. So let's sing Hashkivenu.
Every time you said 2 little hours, you looked at me.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leShalom v'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leShalom
v'hamidenu
shomreinu lechaim.
Ushmot zetenu uvoanu l'chaim ul'shalom me'ata ve'ad ha'olam.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leShalom
v'hamidenu
shomreinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leShalom v'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and in eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, hapores sukat shalom, Elenu ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ba'al Yerushalayim. Whether you are at home watching the live stream or in person, join us for Vishamru, page 44.
ושמרו בני
Israel et hasham,
לעשות את השבת
lenorotam.
ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם.
We are a people in whom the past endures, in whom the present is inconceivable without moments gone by. The Exodus lasted a moment enduring forever. What happened once upon a time happens all the time. For the Tefillah Amidah prayer, page 46, please rise.
Adonai, וקדושים בכל יום יהללו חסלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Please be seated. The bottom of page 57. You are with us in our prayer, our love, and our doubt, in our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still, clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind. We look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch atah Adonai, she'odcha levadcha, b'yir'ah na'avod. Shalom Rav on page 60.
Shalom Rav
Israel Amcha,
Tasim
Le'olam Shalom Rav Israel Amcha, Tasim Le'olam.
Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha, tasim le'olam.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Le'olam.
וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל
Amcha, Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Le'olam. Tasim Le'olam. Tasim Now, at the end of the Amidah, our thoughts turn to those of our loved ones in need of healing, be this a healing of body or a healing of soul. We think in our extended congregational family this evening of Leah Edelman, and also bring to mind those of your loved ones as we join with the Cantor in the Mishabera healing prayer.
Mishabera אבותינו, אברהם, יצחק ויעקב. משברה אמותינו, שרה, רבקה, לאה ורחל. May the one who blessed our mothers, may the one who blessed our fathers, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, and bless us as well. Bless us with the power of your healing. Bless us with the power of your hope. May our hearts be filled with understanding and strengthened by the power of your love. May the ones who blessed our mothers, may the one who blessed our fathers, hear our prayer, hear our prayer, hear our prayer,
As we pause now for a moment of silent prayer, I want to argue that the encounter in this week's Torah portion between two brothers is the most significant, the most dramatic moment in the entire Hebrew Bible. When Judah comes forward and Joseph, after hearing Judah pour out his heart, starts to cry and then says, "I am Joseph, your brother." Right there. That's it. That is the most revelatory moment. If brothers who have been so far apart can reconcile, then anything is possible. I'll have more to say about that in a moment, but let's pause and think about a difficult relationship that we may have, but what it might take to overcome the distance. Maybe not 100%, but at least to begin to bridge that gap. We pause. that song, Close Every Door, from Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat by Andrew Lloyd Webber, gives us profound insight into Joseph. That song is from a time in his life when he is despairing. He's in exile. He's in prison in Egypt. Things couldn't get any darker, any worse for Joseph at that point in his life. Every door has closed. And you hear it in the mournful part of that song. But it also captures the fact that Joseph doesn't give up, and there's a faith that he clings to, that there will be a brighter future. But Joseph is suffering at this point. And little does he know that one of his brothers, he has a lot of brothers. He has 11 brothers. But one in particular, Judah, back in Israel, is suffering also. Now, this is not a well-known story, but it's there in Genesis 38. Judah witnesses the tragic death of his firstborn and then his secondborn. And then there's a period of time when he castigates his daughter-in-law and then sees the error of his ways. So Judah is suffering also. And when we get to that fateful encounter, remember, Joseph recognizes his brothers. They have no clue who they are standing before. They haven't seen the brother in 20 years. He has completely changed. He looks like an Egyptian. He dresses, he speaks like an Egyptian. So they have no idea. And it's not like Joseph reveals himself right away. He puts his brothers through an ordeal. But then when Judah steps forward and says, please don't imprison my youngest brother Benjamin, take me instead, and then explains, we did wrong in the past. We made a great mistake with a long-lost brother. And exhibits that regret and atonement. That's what cracks Joseph open. That's when he becomes so emotional. And that's when he reveals himself and says, I am Joseph, your brother. And the reconciliation among brothers. We've been waiting for it the entire book of Genesis since Cain and Abel. We see sibling rivalry and family conflict, generation after generation. And then finally this breakthrough, which is the last story, basically, in the book of Genesis. We finish reading Genesis next week. So there's something about what they went through, their adversity. You know, we lost Stephen Sondheim, the great Broadway composer, this past week. Stephen Sondheim grew up in an awful home. His father basically left, and his mother, he revealed in many interviews, mistreated him. She was so unhappy with the collapse of her marriage and other things that she was not well, mentally or physically, and she mistreated him. He was an only child. You know how he was saved? He was mentored by Rodgers and Hammerstein. Hammerstein in particular took him under his wing. He recognized this young talent. Sondheim came to him with one of his first compositions. Hammerstein says to him, it's awful. It's terrible. But you have got potential. You have got talent. I see it in you. Keep going. And that changed his life. And then he was like 25 years old and an emerging talent. And Jerome Roberts and Leonard Bernstein said, hey, we're doing a play called West Side Story. Would you like to write some of the lyrics for us? Who, me? And that changed his life right there too. But he could have, as he said, he could have gone off the rails. He could have been nothing. He could have just felt sorry for himself, and that was it. Instead, he became Stephen Sondheim. And you know, at my publishing company, JPS, we just published this month a new book with Torah commentary by Martin Buber, the great Jewish philosopher. Well, very few people know. Martin Buber's home was so dysfunctional that he had to go live with his grandparents. Because in this particular case, this is back in Germany before the war, his mother ran off. He was 3 years old. She ran off with a Russian soldier. And his father was so broken by it, he really couldn't raise Martin. And so eventually, grandparents stepped in. But Martin Buber would reveal later on, he would have this recurring dream where he saw his mother leaving, and he was knocking on the window saying, where are you going, where are you going? And she didn't even turn around. And he said he realized with some psychotherapy that it might have happened because his mother never once made contact again. Never wrote, never nothing. So Martin Buber could have been a basket case as well. Well, he became one of the premier philosophers and the great ideas of I and thou, the existentialist relationship philosopher. It came, he said, from an emptiness inside that he had to fill. So his philosophy about how all real living is meeting and you have to treat another person as a thou instead of an it was born out of his experience of suffering emotionally. And Sondheim suffered emotionally. So I was struck by those two examples as we're reading this Torah portion and wondering, because Joseph had every reason to want nothing to do with his brothers, where he had become the number 2 in Egypt. By this time, he was hugely successful. He didn't need these brothers. He really could have sent them on their way, never revealed himself, and that was it. He had been so wrong. He had been sold into slavery and almost killed by his out-of-control brothers. But instead, he finds a path to forgiveness. You know what he says to his brothers after the crying and after the I am Joseph? He said, you know, you did intend me harm, but God had a plan. God had a greater plan here. He said, and I see it now. Because Joseph saves his entire family by being in a position of responsibility when there's that famine, and he brings them to live. And although Egypt will eventually mean slavery, hundreds of years, he saved the nascent Jewish people at that time. And Judah, the brother who steps forward, his descendants will be the kings of Israel. So in a sense, the Torah is saying, these two people, these two brothers, who were schooled in adversity, but were able to find a way to make something of themselves and to find forgiveness and to overcome the distance and bring a family back together again, that's heroic, and that's worthy of being the progenitors of the Jewish people. And so finally, I'm thinking about all this, thinking about Sondheim, thinking about buber, thinking about the Torah portion, and then this morning, last thing here, David Brooks, the New York Times columnist, writes a column, What Do You Say to the Sufferer? It's all about the theme of understanding our suffering. He actually mentions a few Bible characters, but he doesn't mention Judah and Joseph. But you can look at the suffering of other characters and what they learn from it as well, like Job, for example, or Elijah. But he writes, suffering had such profound and unpredictable effects on those biblical characters as it does on us. Suffering can make people self-centered, loveless, humorless, and angry. We all know people who have suffered who remain angry. It's a natural reaction. But is it the best reaction? It is not. Look what it does to ourselves, never mind to others. He goes on, but we all know cases where suffering didn't break people, but broke them open, made them more caring and knowledgeable about the suffering of others. And the old saying that we suffer our way to wisdom is not wrong. We often learn more from the hard times than the happy times in our lives. So the book of Genesis ends on this hopeful note. Book of Exodus that follows, a lot more suffering in store for the Jewish people. 400 years of slavery, the plagues of Egypt, all of that. We know that about life too. Just because you've suffered, you're not going to get a free pass, no more suffering. Doesn't exist. Monopoly, get out of jail free, but you don't get those cards for necessarily for suffering. But Genesis ends with the idea that you can overcome adversity and you can reconcile even when you think that is not possible. And that really is the gift of Judah coming forward to Joseph in this week's Torah portion. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
For the Elenu, as we open the Ark, the bottom of page 282. Please rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל,
לתת גדולה יוצר ראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הרצון, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגור עלינו ככל המונם. אנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא תותי שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושבי קרוב השמיים עמהם, ושכינתו זו בגוהל מרומי, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, כך כתוב בתורתו, ידעת היום והשבות בלבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל ועל As we remain standing, our thoughts turn to those of our loved ones no longer with us. On this Shabbat, we remember in love and reverence the Yortzeit, the anniversary of the passing of Luba Klein, grandmother of Lisa Bresloff, Herman Adashko, uncle of Allison Raskin. For all those close to our hearts, for all those for whom there may be no one to say Kaddish, we join in the Kaddish prayer, page 294. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba, be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'hayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kari v'imru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba Mevarach Leolam Olamei Almaya. Yitbarak v'yishtabak v'yitpa'ar v'yitroman v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shmei D'Kudisha Brichu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabba min Shamaya, v'chayim Elenu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru Amen. Oseh Shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh Shalom, Elenu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. Amen. Please be seated. If you haven't seen the Emuno 150 exhibit at the Leonia Library, there's not much more time left, so please step in to see the exhibit behind the glass of our 150th years during this special anniversary year. Tomorrow morning, Torah study will take place, as it still is, via Zoom at 10 o'clock. Religious school will be in person on Sunday at 9 a.m. Our Shabbat evening service will conclude with another song about Joseph. This song is called Better Than I, and I'm told it's from a movie about Joseph from DreamWorks, but I can't remember that movie. Let's see if we can remember this song.
And maybe as homework, all of us will go and watch it.
The movie's called Joseph, as far as you know?
As far as I know.
Okay.
I'll let you know if it's a bit different. I thought I did what's right. I thought I had the answers. I thought I chose the surest road, but that road brought me here. So I put up a fight and told you how to help me. Now just when I have given up, the truth is coming clear. You know better than I. You know the
Shabbat Shalom.